Alright, part 2, appendixes. Alright, appendixes. Location of the apparatus instrument. The location of the point of the application instrument in the general with some of the laboratory and the road test, but the location of the recording parts of the instrument will be somewhat different with the road test and the laboratory test. Figure number 1 shows the general plan of the location of the point of the application of all the parts of the important of the instrument with the expansion of steam pressure gauge, speed indicators, stroke counters, and spark catcher, and the dynamometer apparatus. The steam gauge connection should be made in such a way that it ensures the representative reading of the pressure and points in which they are connected, and the care must be taken neither the velocity nor the static pressure heads should be unduly affected with the gauge. Speed indication stroke counters may be attached to almost any of the revolving reciprocating part is found most of the convenient. The safety of the convenience of observing it will in large measure determine the exact location of the instrument. The spark catcher should be attached or enclosed to the sack of the view, the obtaining the representative some of the samples of the stock refuse. Alright, that shows a picture. Alright, your number 1 location apparatus instrument, your calorimeter, your pyrometer draft tube, the draft tube, your draft tube, pyrometer, gas sampling tube, indicator road test, indicator for road test, indicators for laboratory testing. Alright, the dynamometer connection should be made at the engine of the tender draw of the points of the explanation. The instrument should be located with the view of the reading of the instrument with the representative of the possible observation, which would be intent with the record with the calorimeter usually attached with the seam of the dome in figure number 1. The details throttling the calorimeter made standard pipe with the fittings in figure number 4, and the taking of the draft of the front of the diaphragm in advance for the advisable, the extreme draft tube below the tip of the exhaust and nozzle to obtain the representative reading of the U-tube. The recording parts for the instrument should be located with the view of the making the conveniently reading of the observer the possible laboratory working with general due to the little difficulty of the road test and somewhat difficulty since all the recording parts of the draft reading indicator work in the stock of the flue gas sampling use and must usually be located with the pilot box for any test in which would be found most conveniently located with the calorimeter at the left side of the locomotive. Figure number 2 represents the front end of the consolidation location and the testing plan for the University of Illinois. The draft tube with the G and H are joined with the draft gears, the D and E, with the flexible rubber connection to the gas sampling of the tube of the F. Connected with the separator is known as not as shown in flexible connections, copper tubes, and showing in the photograph. The temperature of the flue gas was taken on the left side of the locomotive, the point of the application of the pyrometer being subsequently opposite with the point of the F. The plug of the switchboard K mounted upon the valve of the ghost was in connection with the indicators which were of the continuous car type. All indicators were operated in simultaneously from other switchboard not shown in the photograph. Alright, the photograph shows figure number 2, front end of the locomotive testing plant showing the arrangement of the apparatus. A is your indicator cox, B is your reducing bar, CC is where's C? I don't see CC. CC is reducing motion, D is U-tube draft back of the diaphragm, E is a U-tube draft in front of the diaphragm, F is a gas sampling tab, G is the draft tube for D, and G is the draft tube for D, and H is the draft tube for E. Appendix number 2, the analysis ash stock cinders in the front end of the sparks. The analysis of each of the stock cylinders of the front end of the spark, the following main items obtain the moisture combustible matter in either earthy matter and BT of the calorific value. The completion of the approximate analysis for the BT determination may be made in place for the above. For the ash and sparks often found with a sufficiently accurate calculate the calorific value from the amount of the combustible matter contained with the calorific value of the coal burn. Used for the composite sample to be restored with the case of the ash test stock cylinders front of the cylinders where the part of the fuel is during with the number of the tests share test conditions otherwise not as much as make the method of the scribbling and analyzing individual composite samples are to be taken in the manner described in appendix number 10. The degree of the accuracy aimed at the purpose of the test relatively in such manner as test distribution will determine the number of the separate analysis and heated determinations which will be advisable to have made. Appendix number 3, brakes. Any suitable form of the brakes may be either applying the resisting force for the supporting the wheels at one of almost universally locomotive tests is the Alden test. The Alden Absorption brake is mounted on the end of each of the supporting shaft. This type of the brake is figure number 3, as are invented by Mr. G.I. Aiden of the MME brake that is equipped with the axle, the supporting wheel, the brake of the braking housing of the turning with the tie rods marked with the R of the lower end of the R bolted with the bracket of the bed plating casting T. The discs, C, are part of the hub and are key with the supporting axle, one at each of the sides of the revolving disc, copper diaphragms, D, which are forced against with the disc and pressure of the water. In this space, W, lubricating arrangement between these surfaces preferably are the same. The system force lubrication, the heating surfaces but between the hub end of the housing lubricated with oil with the leaks of past the packaging ring, C, shown in the cross section, and the oil is caught in the drip cups. Alright, water under pressure circulates through these spaces W when the effect of the being pressure from the copper plates stored with the revolving disc introduced the desired resistance, turning the copper plates in the place protected with the wearing by oil resistance bearing due to the viscosity of the lubrication under the imposed conditions of the pressure. Heat generated with the carried away by this water. The water enters the brake in the bottom of the bass is at the top of the shown of the side view of the brakes. Pressure and the volume being controlled with the inlet valve of each of the valve brake and pair of brakes. Alright, this shows your Alden brake. Appendix number 4. Method of calculation. In most cases, the method of determining the data collected with the other self-evidently made of the code of it as far as possible in order with the computation. Some of the most important items may clearly understand the method of plowing has been shown that since they are deemed sufficiently important to require the special motion. It is assumed that the Marks and Davis tables, the saturated superheated to the steam will also be used in all computation pertaining to the properties of the steam. Person not familiar with the computation indicated with the horsepower from the indicator cards would be found such work as carpenter's experimental engineering useful in this connection. With regard of item 644, the ratio of the heating of the boiler to the engine's heat from the fire through the boiler, it may be said that usually the item will, most cases, not practically different. Practical make no practical difference in competition with the result, since the difference between the unity depends entirely on the steam loss through the pop-up valves, calorimeter, the air pumps, etc. Upon the heat that is stored in the boiler, both in the start and in the end of the test. These later valves are generally so small to make the item 644 vary with a negligible amount of the unity, except in the case of the road test, in which the amount of the steam as air pumps is often considerable. Alright, these show your calculations for items 318 through 407. Actually, 627. These are calculations. We're just going to read what the symbols stand for. T with the S, T with the underscored S, subscript S, the T with the steam, temperature of the steam calorimeter in cases, and in case T to the T to 1, temperature due to saturated steam calorimeter, absolute pressure. H is the liquid heat of the liquid due to absorbed boiler pressure. R is the intent of the heat of the dry steam during the absolute pressure boiler pressure. H is the total heat of dry steam due to the absolute pressure of the calorimeter. X is the quantity of steam. H with a subscript of 1 is heat liquid with the feed water of the temperature, and another H again is actually the total of the dry steam due to the absolute boiler pressure. In item 481, the water pressure boiler ended the test in pounds is WF. The WI, subscript I. W subscript I is the water in the boiler starting of the test, and L is the water leakage in pounds. Alright, H is the total heat of the steam of the boiler. Lowercase h is the heat of the liquid due to the feed of water as is observed in the thermometer. The Fahrenheit superheated steam is given a calculation. H is the total heat of the steam of the branch pipe. Absolute pressure is H. C to the subscript P is the specific heat superheated steam of the range of the temperatures from T1 to T2. T1 temperature degree of the Fahrenheit saturated with the test, absolute branch pipe pressure. T2 temperature superheated steam observed in the thermometer in degrees of Fahrenheit. Lowercase h heat of liquid of feed water temperature as observed in the thermometer's degrees Fahrenheit. Alright, HWL water in the boiler starting the test in pounds. H4 heat of liquid and average boiler pressure. Let me zoom in on that. Alright, HI is heat of the liquid due to the initial boiler pressure. WT, water boiler pressure at the end of the test in pounds. HF, lowercase h, subscript F, H liquid due to the final boiler pressure. HW, heat of the liquid due to the water temperature of the feed water. XA, quality of the steam. And there's more calculations with the different items. Alright, IM is the million foot-pounds per developed at the drawbar. Alright, appendix number 5. Appendix number 5, calibration apparatus instruments. Boiler gauge glass. There are two general methods of calibrating the boiler, including the gauge glass. Gauge glass, the first and the most reliable method, accomplishes admitting the draw of the off-weighted amount of the water in the boiler. Second, the calculation of the drawing of the locomotive. It will usually find with the most convenient calibrated with the boiler and the gauge glass, drawing off the water from the boiler, with beginning with the boiler entirely full, drawing off the water in amounts of 400 to 500 pounds, and others so conveniently amounts at a time until the boiler is empty. And with this is amount of the water present in the entire boiler, and the steam and steam places in the water space for the calibration and gauge glass of the determined. Suitable allowance correction should be reduced to compensate the temperature difference in the boiler and the water at time of making calibration under the test conditions. Gauges. Steam pressure gauge should be calibrated with the end of the curve of the air. Each of the plot of the calibration can be accomplished thoroughly with the standard weight with the gauge test ring apparatus, such as the Thomas, Crosby, or Ellison apparatus. Full description of the instruction for the use of these instruments can be found in the trade catalogs of the various dealers and steam engineering appliances. Indicators. The indicator spring should be calibrated with the comparison with the actual determined pressure of the indicator of the spring undergoing the calibration being used in conditions nearby, identically to those which were subjected when testing. Practical steam engineer textbooks, trade catalogs, etc. give the description apparatus method of these kind of work. As a makeshift indicator with the indicator springs can be calibrated by using the weight of the testing apparatus is standard for the comparison with several pressure lines withdrawn on the card, and the ordinates for the lines of the reference atmospherical line, and is accurate measure for the scale that otherwise. And from this data, this will be possible to determine the pressure required for the move of the pencil an inch vertically upon the card. Alright, pyrometers. In order to satisfactorily calibration of the pyrometers, it is necessary such work to be done by a component physicist, other experienced person provided with the proper apparatus, such as an electrical furnace, standard pyrometers, etc. The calibration must be performed as follows: placing the pyrometer in an oil bath in current steam with the cylinder medium, the temperature in which under the control of the accurately calibration mercurial thermometer, comparing the readings of the low range temperature according to the high temperature, the judged by the plotting of these results, charted finding the curve of the error exceeding the curve of the high range temperature desired. Your thermometers. All thermometers should be calibrated over the range of which they are be employed. The calibration can be made with comparing with their respective range and temperature of standard thermometer of one known calibration, placing the steam currents in oil or steam bowls, baths. The temperature in which under control of the curves of the air should be plated against the reading of the standard thermometer. The thermometer should be numbered in accordance with the respective curves of the air. Appendix number 6, calorimeters. Steam calorimeter is connected with the steam dome and in other suitable places to measure the quality of the steam at that point, the boiler steam space, i.e. to determine the amount of the moisture percentage present in the steam as moisture. Other expanded provided with the proper apparatus such as electrical furnace. Alright. The satisfactory throttle calorimeter is for the work can be made upon the standard pipe fittings. The steam of the boiler is delivered with the calorimeter through the sampling nipple connected at the side of the steam dome as shown in Figure 4. Alright, appendix number 7, determination of clearance. The clearance volume of each of the end of the cylinder should be determined immediately after the tight piston fits in has been Secured several such determinations usable, desirable to serve as check as each other. Clearance volume can be in general determined with the displacement method consisting of the filling of the clearance space with water or oil or some other liquid, determining the volume of the liquid is used. In some cases, the found to be expedited with the dependency of the great proportion of the clearance space between the displacement method and the calculated remainder of the clearance space from the drawings and other measurements. In this case, the piston valves with the cylinder and the valve construction in such a way that makes a part in particular difficult to fill the whole space with light liquid or such a method, but the founding is advisable. In all cases, the essential that leakage will occur with while the clearance will be filled with the empty, and while the monitoring liquid should be measured with taking account in the calculations. All right. Alright, this is your brass thermometer reducing T, and I'm going to flip it. Alright, figure number 4, throttle steam calorimeter. This is on top of the dome. This should be like on your dome. So you have a flange coupling a global valve with section A and B. Drilling 1/8 of a quote soles to the left and CD. Bottom of the radius of the steam dome is X. And your whole diameter, steam disc thickness, a rubber gasket and plate. This is your number 4 throttling calorimeter. Alright, appendix number 8, coal sizes. The size of bituminous coals are only considered with here and such of the coal constitute a large proportion of the fuel consumed by the locomotive. Bituminous coals in the eastern states may be graded with the size as follows: run of the mine coal, the unscreened coal taken from a mine, lump coal, in which the passage over the barn green with the openings of 1/4 inch wide, but nut coal, at which the passage through the bar screen within 1/4 inch and openings over the one of the 3/4 inch openings. Slack coal, that which is passage from the bar screen from 3/4 inch opening. Bituminous coal with the western state may be graded in size as follows: run coal, one of the mine coal, unscreened coal taken from the mine, lump coal divided into 6 inches, 3 inches, and 1/4 inch lumps according to the diameter of the circular opening over which the repeating grades unpass. Also 6 by 3 lumps, 3 or by 3 by 1/4 inch lumps according to the coal passes through the circular opening, having a diameter of a large figure over that as a smaller diameter. Nut coal divided in 3 inches of the steam nut, which passes through the opening of the 3 inch of the diameter, and 1/4 inch nut, which passes through 1/4 inch the diameter opening end of the 3/4 inch diameter, and 3/4 inch nut passing through 3/4 inch diameter opening over the 5/8 of an inch diameter opening screens, which pass through 1/4 inch diameter opening. Watch sizes of the passing through over the circular opening of the following diameter inches. Number 1 is through 3 over 1/3 inch. Number 2 is 1 3/4 inch over 1 1/8 of an inch. Number 3 is through 1 1/8 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch. Sorry, this is like table screwed up. 5 is 1/4 inch and the over nothing. 4 is 3/4 of an inch. Through and over. Appendix number 9, dynometer. The additional limitation controlling the selection of the time of the dynometer of the construction of the testing plants are in part as follows: in order that the locomotive shall be held in position on the top of the supporting wheels, and necessary to have the movement permitted of the dynometer restricted with the smallest amount of practicable weighting of the apparatus, acceptable weighting either pull or push. Apparatus will nearly frictionless as possible. The drawbar highly adjustable, finally a desirable machine arranged for that of the drawbar pulley shown graphically on the paper in the continuous permanent record. The dynometer fulfills that the requirements may be selected with the dynometer known as the Emery type that have been proven satisfactory. The description example of this type is obtained with referring locomotive test exhibits of the Pennsylvania Railroad conducted in the St. Louis pages 42 through 54. Alright, appendix number 10. Analysis of fuel. Complete direction of the method employed with the making of the fuel analysis description apparatus. You will use the found in volume 5 and volume 6, number 1913 Journal of the Industrial Engineering Chemistry, General Chemical Analysis, fuel cylinders, each of the including the calorific determinations, which are only made by the chemist. Other experience in the field with the working in the laboratories equipped with suitable apparatus. Satisfactory analysis of the kind would rarely be made with experience with a person with incompatible equipment. Such facilities for the kind of the work are otherwise available and advisable to have such acceptance made with the laboratory. Some of the commercials other chemists require recognized standing. In the case of a number of the tests with one of the kind of the analysis made by the composite and sample instead of the separate analysis for the individual task, composite samples may be made by taking proportional parts of the sample selected with the individual test and such parts of the composite sample in general coal and other fuels should be sampled with that one analysis will represent the carload of other some similar quantity, which so one fuel analysis represents more than one test and determines the accidental moisture which should be made in samples collected from each test. The following method is employed with abstracted from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers recording in the 1918 Journal of Industrial Engineering Engineering Chemistry for June 1913. Alright, there will be a general but an analysis to be made that the coal and the solid fuel and the liquid fuel in the analysis for the form will be divided with the approximated analysis, ultimate analysis, approximate analysis, ultimate analysis, liquid fuel analysis should be in accordance with the direction as follows. Approximated analysis for the coal. The apparatus required for the approximated analysis consists of the mill grinding coal, the chemical scales, sensitive 1 to 1,000 is the amount of weight of the drying of the apparatus, platinum crucible, barium burner, blast lamp with the supply with the supply of oxygen gas such as chemical apparatus may require the elements for the determine that is the moisture, volatile matter, the Higgs carbons and ash and sulfur. To obtain the moisture for the pair of shallow weighing capsules, ground caps, other than well-fitting covers, heating under the conditions at which the coal is to be dried, stopper and over the concerned sulfuric acid for 30 minutes of weighing. The dip out of the spoon spatulas from the container of the portions of the coal from 1 gram of the weight in each, but the quality of the drying vessel close for the weighing at once. Alright, quickly plain vessel opening of the preheated at 104 degrees to 110 degrees Celsius that is made pass for the current of the dried by concentrated sulfuric acid, cleaning of the oven at once and the heating of the 1 hour. The opening of the oven covered the capsule quickly and into the place of the decetometer over the concentrated sulfuric acid, then coal and weight the difference of the two weights of the moisture to determine the voltmeter commanded with the 10 gram platinum crucible using having a capsule cover that is one which from the fits the inside of the crucible and on the top and not on the top. The crucible with 1 gram of the coal is placed with the premium muffle to maintain with approximately 950 degrees Celsius for 7 minutes. This muffle is a horizontal type of the crucible, should not rest in the floor of the muffle, but it should be supported with platinum and nicerium triangle bent for the tripod form. After the more rapidly discharged volatile matters well shown the disappearance of luminous flame. The cover should be tapped lightly, perfectly sealed with the cover of the guard against for the emission of the air. The difference of the weight of this and of the previously weighing the materials represents volatile matter. Alright, to certainly ash and expose the residue of the crucible with the blast lamp with the complete burn with the use of the steam oxygen if desired to hasten the process. Residual left of the ashes, the difference between the residual left after the explosion of the volatile matter of the ashes fixed from the carbon. To determine the sulfurous Ika's method, which is one of the commonly used, but heat 1 gram of coal mixed with 1 gram of magnesium oxide, 1/2 gram of sodium carbonate for 1 hour using an alcohol lamp. After the cooling of the mix with 1 gram of the ammonium nitrate and the heating of the fixture of the 10 minutes, this dissolves into 2 COs or GCCs for the water, reducing this evaporation of 150 cc's, satisfying acidity of the hydrochloric acid filter, the barium chloride filter, and can determine the sulfur calculation of the quantity of the consumption of the barium sulfate, thereby precipitated. Alright, the ultimate analysis for coal. The apparatus required for the ultimate analysis consists of the mill and other apparatus grinding and pulverizing the coal and chemical scale sensitive to 1 to 1,000 amount of the weight of the drying apparatus. The combustion apparatus enhancing the combustion furnace for the glass for the combustible tube and filled with the copper oxide and chromate of lead and other of the roller oxide, copper, the gauze, and porcelain boot, such as the bulb sustaining hydrated with the potassium U-tube filled with the chloride of the calcium and supplied with the pure oxygen per air, together with suitable chemical apparatus required for the various processes of the elements, determine the moisture of the carbon, the hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and nitrogen ash. The moisture is determined the manner pointed over under the approximated analysis. The carbon hydrogen obtained with the use of the condition of the apparatus with 1/2 of the gram pulverized the dried coal is placed in the porcelain yes, which is introduced between the copper roll of the copper oxide within the combustion tube after the coal and the entire contents within they have been thoroughly dried out by sufficient preliminary heating aid with the current of the drive with the furnace is set with the work of the tie of the coal burned with the first of the passing air through the tube of the final oxygen conducting products of the combustion through the potash bulbs and chloride calcium tube. The carbon dioxide produced with the combustion of the carbons observed with the potash and the water formated with the combustion hydrogen together with the dew, this moisture of the air dried is taken from the chloride calcium, the quantity of the carbon dried weighing both before and after thereby weighing the carbon dioxide produced and the calculating weight of the carbon from the known composition of dioxide, likewise quantity of the hydrogen determined by the weight of the calcium tube before and after which of the deducting the moisture of the air-dried cool, given the amount of water produced and then dividing it by 9, and the amount of hydrogen sulfur is found with the method described under the heading approximate analysis. Determine the nitrogen certain weight of the coal and mixed with the strong sulfuric solids with the permeated potash heated until nearly colorless. The process converts the nitrogen into ammonia, then sulfate of ammonia. The amount of sulfate determined in making the solution of alkaline and then distilling it. Nitrogen is found in calculation known to be the composition of ammonia. The ash is found with the weighing of the refuse, the lifting of the combustion of after the coal is completely burned. The oxygen is the difference between the sum of the elements previously determined in the original weight of the coal. The ultimate analysis of coal as will be seen from above. The description required for the use of much of the chemical apparatus and best for the complicated. What is so complicated that it is not likely to be done except for the fully equipped chemical and laboratory. It should be undertaken by one who is not familiar with all the details of the work, not entirely familiar with all the details of the work. The BTU of the calorific value should be determined by the use of the Meller bomb or some other accurate form of the calorimeter. Analysis of liquid fuels determine the carbon and hydrogen of liquid fuels is made in the manner that concerns with the solid fuels above described, and using special means of preventing the loss of the various processes account of the volatile characteristics of the fuel to determine the sulfur and the oil, other liquid, and heated with the nitric acid and the chromium chloride, the quantity of the sulfate, the barium of the producing the ascertained by filtering and weighing the sulfur, calculated with known composition of the compound, ultimate analysis liquid fuel. Likewise, like the coal would also undertake some only by a person familiar with all necessary details to see the report complete with the American Chemical Society of the coal sampling analysis. Appendix number 11, sampling and analyzing the flue gas.